Hello and welcome to another episode of Cave Factory. This mod pack is getting more and more interesting the more that I play through it. So, yeah, we're just going to go ahead and jump right into the quests that I have been working my way through. As you can see here on the initial screen, I went ahead and I collected the resources up to build the mining machine, I guess is what you would call it. So that gives us a few more resources. The linear chassis, which we'll need, as well as the rail. And I've got all of the various bits and pieces of it in here. So when we figure out where we're going to build it, I've got a box that I can just take with me to put it away. I also finally figured out how to make one of these stupid things. This is not clear what you're supposed to do, but you take a golden sheet or a gold plate, whichever one, you put it on a depot, and then you put a deployer above it, and you give it the little cogwheel, and then it goes down and it puts it on it. And then you give it the big cogwheel, and it goes down and puts that on there. And then you give it an iron nugget, and it goes down and puts that on there. And then you repeat the process. So I've got a... I don't know why it's grayed out like that, but I've got a deployer that I put over here where I had the stomper and just went through and did that. That gives us a wand of symmetry. So with that actually finishes out all of the quests in this basic automation page, which is pretty cool. What we have left then are these challenges down here. So we've got the ore processing already figured out and set up. We've had that for a while now. The other one here that we had to do was Kelp. Now, this says to use create. I didn't use create. I'll show you what I did do. Because I couldn't figure out how to do this with create, and I don't really want to look it up. So I basically did it vanilla. We've got the kelp in here, and then up here I've got observers. And so when the kelp grows, and I can show you using Twerker. There you go. The kelp grows up to the observers. It fires the pistons. The pistons go. The item collector right here grabs all of the kelp and pops it into the drawer right there, which is then connected to my refined storage. And just to kind of show you guys that I am using some mods. This isn't pure vanilla. I am using the immersive engineering redstone wiring to actually connect the pistons and observers together. So it's a little bit more space efficient doing it this way than using vanilla redstone, especially with them being that far apart. And then as for making the dried kelp and all of the other things, as you can see, I've just put it in refined storage. So there's a recipe in there that'll let it create dried kelp. And there's a recipe in here that'll create mechanical belts. I don't have kelp blocks being made, but there's really no reason to make kelp blocks other than for storage. I'm not going to worry too much about making the blocks, but we're going to go ahead and tick off the automatic kelp farm. The other two quests that we have in this tab are a automated wither farm, which we haven't gotten to yet because I think I have 2 wither skeleton skulls. I need more. And making chocolates. We need to make a chocolate river or lake. Now the thing about making chocolate is I believe it requires milk, and I still haven't seen a single cow. So chocolates, here we go. So we make a bar of chocolate, or we can do sugar and cocoa beans. I don't have any cocoa beans. And then heat it. That would make it. And then milk, yeah. So we need sugar, cocoa beans, and milk, and that gets us some chocolate. I don't have milk, and I don't have cocoa beans. And cocoa beans we get by mana infusing with an alchemy catalyst pumpkin seeds. Or we can use the sifter from mine colonies to sift sand and get them with a 10% chance. But it's probably going to be easier to use the mana infusion. And by the way, mine colonies is one of these things that I cannot for the life of me figure out how to do. I was looking in here, and there's no book. There's no like manual instructions of what it is that you need to do. I don't know how to start this mod. So I'm probably going to have to look up online to see how to start this mod and what to do with it. But anyway, that's those two. So those are going to be for later. But if we keep going through the tree, here in the factory tab, we obviously made some asphalt concrete. That gets us some normal concrete, which, as you can see, I've laid it down right over here. I'm still working on filling out. I started working on decorating and actually making this place look a little bit nicer than it does. So kind of my idea is to put down either concrete or asphalt concrete for the immersive engineering area back here. And then we'll make this area a little bit more, like livable. So I've got the wood planks going down, putting down some spruce in the walls, changing my lighting out to being these lanterns. And we, of course, have the supplementaries. So we have the nice hanging lanterns that gently sway back and forth. Asphalt concrete. The arc furnace. I did go ahead and build the arc furnace. And if I go back here, it is right there. Arc furnace. And as you can see, I've got the refined storage attached to it. Well, partially attached to it. I actually need to do something a little bit different because the arc furnace actually takes a secondary ingredient, because you can do like ore crafting inside the arc furnace. But I don't have it set up right now to be able to do that. Right now it's just single inputs. So like, this would be fine, but trying to do that to make Electrum, I can't actually do right now. I can do it manually, I can't do it automatically. So back here we have the output for the slag, gets pulled into the into the refined storage system. And then I have a couple of HV capacitors on here. And the reason I stuck these on here, in addition to having the cable that goes right into the arc furnace, is because when I'm running ancient debris through here, which does seem to be the best way to do that, because you get two, netherite scrap instead of just one, the way that you would if you were putting it into a vanilla furnace. And it doesn't require me to use blazing blood. The problem is that ancient debris takes a lot of power to smelt, which makes sense. And I was burning out I was running all my energy. I was literally, I turned this on and set it to start making a couple of ancient debris, a couple of netherite, and my power grid would shut down because it's pulling all of the available power. So I stuck these on here. This is, 8 million IF between the two of them. And that helps a lot. Helps keep my system from shutting down unless I'm trying to do a ton of netherite. So if I try to make a netherite crafter, which uses just a ridiculous amount of netherite, then we don't have problems, but otherwise we do. So anyway, that takes care of the arc furnace. I also just went ahead and smelted some sand to make some end stone, because here I can even show you. It's kind of silly. You put a piece of sand in, you let it go, end stone. It literally is just, you put sand in, end stone comes out. It's kind of silly. This is the wireless crafting grid, which I have on a keybind. So the next thing to do then for the quests in this is to build the actual end portal and go into the end and fight the dragon. So that's something that we're going to do coming up here pretty soon. And then, of course, we have these quests down here. So the first one we have over here is the highway. Use asphalt concrete on all your pathways to move between locations faster. So the thing about that, I don't really have pathways because I've kind of built rooms rather than building like hallways that lead to them. I suppose I do have this path going this way that comes down here to where all this stuff is, which I'll talk about what all I've got down here in just a minute. But this isn't really something that would benefit from asphalt concrete, except maybe figuring out a better way to do this right here, so I'm not dipping down into that. But everything else is basically just a room kind of off my central chamber here. So, I don't know. I don't really have that. Like I said, I do plan to put that in the immersive engineering room. I need more asphalt concrete. And we kind of got to go through that, and I've just not really had the time to go through and build and then swap everything out. But I'm going to go ahead and tick that, just because the pathways that I do have covered, and I'm planning on putting more in there. So the next one we have is diesel power. Create a setup that can constantly supply a diesel generator with enough fuel. Now, the problem with this is I don't have a diesel generator. I have the materials to make a diesel generator, and I could definitely build one, and I probably should. If we're being honest, I probably should build a diesel generator, because my basic nuclear reactor here is not keeping up. As you can see by the fact that the internal energy buffer is not increasing, it is in fact staying steady. I am consuming 1.5 kFE per tick with all of the various machines and how big my refined storage has gotten. I am consuming that much power per tick. And this has actually been an issue where, like I said, if I kick the arc furnace on, I run out of power. And it has been a bit of an issue, and it's been a problem. So I do need more power generation. I either need to build another reactor, a second reactor, a diesel generator, or convert this into a turbine, which is something that I'll have to look into and figure out down the road. But given that there is a challenge here for that, I will probably set up a diesel generator. I have most of the materials needed for it, obviously. So I've got the distillation tower that I've built previously that produces, among other things, sulfurized diesel. And then I built the sulfur recovery unit, which is currently turned off and has no UI. But while this is powered on, it does actually take the sulfurized diesel and separates the sulfur and the diesel. So we see I've got supplying it with water and all of that stuff. I've also put a tank right here to put water into my refined storage system, because there's a few recipes that use that, and having it in the refined storage is handy. And then I've got a detector here that limits the amount of water that's actually in the refined storage system, because otherwise it'll just fill up my storage with water, which I don't need that much water. So we can see fluid grid that I've put over here. I currently have 130 buckets of water because I set that up before. I set up the input before I set up the limiter, so I actually filled up already. And okay, that's the LPG. I don't know where this plutonium came from. I have nothing that makes plutonium, so I have no idea where this came from, but it's in the system. Oh well. And fish keep coming out of my washer there because they spawn in that water block and then they get blown out and they die on the floor. So that's funny. But anyway, so that's something to do later. The next one here is arc furnace at full speed, and this is kind of where we're having a problem. The challenge is to supply an arc furnace with enough power to run it consistently at full speed. So this is one where we could actually make an argument, because right now, if I put one thing in, it runs at full speed. If I put more than one thing in, it doesn't have enough power to run at full speed. So I'm going to leave that unchecked for now until we get some of our power generation issues resolved. And then we'll come back and revisit that. Moving on. In the tech tree, I did in fact make the advanced pressure tube, which gives me a logistics drone, which I'm not sure what I would do with that, but I got one now. And the last thing to do in here is the aerial interface, which is kind of expensive and requires another star. So until we get a wither killed, we're not going to be able to build one of those. The other thing in here is this one final challenge, which is automating the production of printed circuit boards. So if I go in here and I ask this thing for a printed circuit board, you can see that it knows how to make it. And if I hit start, I'm probably going to have to go switch on. Yeah. So if we hit start, we can see what actually happens. If we come on over here, we can see that I have advanced air compressors set up, and they go into... Okay, so it is working. There is a crafter right here that is set up with recipes. If I can get close enough to activate it. There we go. Set up with recipes to make various items that you make inside the pressure chamber, and it feeds into this hopper. I did originally have the crafter just up against the pressure chamber, but it causes weird issues where the chamber doesn't want to accept the item that the crafter is trying to push in. So having it go through a hopper allows the chamber to kind of pick and choose what it wants a little bit better. So that goes there, and then if we follow the pressure tube around, we have the refinery here that is making LPG and diesel. The LPG is then being outputted into here where it's mixed with coal, and it turns it into plastic. And then I figured out a way to automate the creation of plastic sheets, and it was not easy. Let me tell you this. Basically what we have is there is a... You can kind of get an idea of what's going on here. There's a constructor here that is set up to drop empty small fluid tanks down. And what this one was supposed to do, is this one was supposed to only pick up full empty fluid tanks, because the NBT data is different. But refined storage and NBTs don't really seem like they get along. So instead, what I had to do is I put a comparator on it and ran enough of a wire that by the time it gets to there, this tank is full. And then, of course, that'll send a signal back to here and activate that with a redstone signal and allow that to get picked up. In the meantime, there is an exporter on top here that is exporting molten plastic. So as this guy creates molten plastic and it gets imported into the system, it then gets exported right to there. Once that picks up the full tank, of molten plastic, the plastic is then deposited into this chest here, surrounded by blue ice. I've also got a vortex tube on there. And as you can see, this makes it very, very cold. So the tank gets put into this chest, and then just very slowly over time, molten plastic in the tank gets turned into plastic sheets, which get pulled out through the importer. And then once the tank is empty, the importer will take the empty tank out and leave the chest just sitting empty. So that's automatically making plastic, as long as there's heat in the refinery. Because when this drops below 100 degrees, then it shuts down. But that's fine. This is all supplied with there's a vortex tube right there, and there's vortex tubes all over the place. And also I've obviously used advanced tubing so I can get a higher pressure, because the vortex tube will take up to 20 bar, and so will the advanced pressure tubes. And then for the pressure chamber, because that maxes out at 5, I've got a regulator module here, and I've got it set to 4.5, which seems a little bit safer than letting it go to 4.9, which is what it wants to do otherwise. But I do have a module, a safety tube module, attached that is set to 4.9. So if these start firing, then it should bleed off the air and not blow anything up. I blew up a lot of pneumatic craft stuff trying to get this all set up. And then over here, I have the same thing set up for these two guys. And these two are how we actually do the automatic crafting of things. So this one is set up to automatically make, if I look in here, to automatically make the advanced pressure tubes. So it takes a block of compressed iron, and then it'll do its little dance and turn them into pressure tubes. And this one is set up to make empty PCBs. So we take the unassembled PCB that gets crafted in that machine over there, and it comes all the way over here, puts it into that, and then this guy will grab it out, laser it, put it back in, and it goes back into the system through the input right there. So that means we have automated the production of printed circuit boards, which is pretty cool. It was a lot of fun to figure this out and get this up and running. Moving on to the Magic tab, I built a Runic Altar. So if we go over here, we can see I have the Runic Altar. It is set up. I do need to actually bind it to the mana pool so it can actually get mana, because right now it isn't. I could probably take that spark from there and move it there, to be honest. But that gets me a Rod of the Shifting Crust, which I'm not sure what that does, and a Rune of my choice. So the thing is that I'm going to need all of them, because the next quest in the chain is to make the Terra Steel Plate. So it really doesn't matter which one I pick, because I'm going to need all of them anyway. So we'll just grab one of them. Down here we have some challenges, and I'm ignoring the blood magic section for now. We're going to get to that in just a minute. So living stuff, automate living wood and living rock. Well, that's what this is right here. This is an automatic living wood, living rock farm. You can see destructor, living wood, constructor, oak log. I do have it turned off right now because I have enough of both of them, and it's actually set up right now to make snow. So I can put water in here without it making a mess. We can actually just take these down. But we did automate the creation of living wood and living rock. And this is a technique that I've used before. If you watched my Snowcraft series, I did pretty much the same thing using Applied Energistics, because they have the formation plane and annihilation plane that work exactly the same. Automatic mana production. We do technically have that. I have it turned off right now because the mana pool is full, so there's no point in wasting coal. But we want to use the Keikamoros. So let's look up how to make that. We are going to need the Elven Gateway in order to be able to make it. So that's going to be a little bit, because we need pixie dust. So that's going to be a little bit before we can get to that. But that is how I want to actually do it, because the cake is very easy to do, and it'll just sit there and run, and you don't have to worry about walking by and having your magnet pick up the coal the way you do with that one. So the next one is automating rune production. I don't actually know how this works. It says using the Corporea system, but I don't know what the Corporea system is. So I assume that is either something that I've just never looked into, or that is something that is new in this version of Britannia. But either way, I'm not up to rune production right now at all. So once we do get that figured out, then we can do that. But that'll leave those two for now. Moving on to the storage section, I went through and set up refined storage. It's not terribly interesting. It's basically the same as doing what's the word? Applied Energistics. I built one of these guys because we've got blazes, which I'll show you in a bit. We did the controller, gives me a flux point and a wrench. I already claimed the wrench because you need it for quite a lot in refined storage. We went through and set up a network transmitter. I've got a couple of fluid grids around, pattern grids, give me more pattern, crafters. And we've got the different tiers of crafter, which I have gone through and made, all the way except for, like I mentioned, the netherite crafter, because it's really frickin' expensive. These aren't terribly expensive. Not really. That, though, that uses, 4 blocks of netherite, really expensive. So I haven't actually made a netherite crafter yet. I wanted to get more ancient debris before we worried about that. It gives us a 1K storage disk. Another storage monitor and all of the various storage parts. As well as the range upgrade for the wireless transmitter, which I do have a few of them in there. So with that, in the storage department, then, that only leaves us with the netherite crafter, which, like I said, is just very expensive, as well as the creative wireless transmitter, which is expensive. So range upgrades, an elytra, and then 4 nether stars is how you make one of those. The nice thing is, though, that it has infinite range, works across dimensions, and doesn't consume power. And when we build that, we get the creative controller for refined storage, which basically means that our refined storage system then no longer consumes power, period. So that is really nice. It's expensive, but it's nice. And then, of course, down here, we have the challenge to never craft manually again. And if you guys have watched any of my previous videos or series with any kind of auto crafting, you know that that is, in fact, true. In fact, if we come down here, this is just right underneath my base where all my where a lot of my wiring is. There's a lot of it that's exposed too. But you can see that I've got 4 crafters, diamond crafters, in fact, set up. And if we go through these first 3 here, you can see that they are full. And even this one is starting to fill up. Because, yeah, I come down here to my pattern grid and I teach it how to make absolutely everything. If I need to craft something, generally if I craft something once, I just do it myself. But if I'm crafting it a second time, I make a pattern for it. It goes in the crafter. So that one we are absolutely going to go ahead and check because I do not like manual crafting. I like automatic crafting. I do. It's nice. Anyway, moving on. So the reason I have a bunch of these trees available to me here in the food section, in fact, I think I believe I have all of the trees. No, I am still missing passion fruit, spider web, and that's it. Just those 2. Weirdly enough, I haven't gotten those 2. But the reason that I did this is because I was looking for dark oak. So I threw a bunch more seeds into creosote. The tree, I don't really have a good way to grow these trees. Because when you cut down these trees, you don't get that tree's sapling. You get like an oak sapling. Which kind of raises the question of how you're supposed to replant them. So, I don't know. But let me just clear all these off of here. I think that's all of them. We got some challenges over here, which I have not yet done. But one of them is to automate making dyes. We have refined storage. We can just use that. Massive food production. Automate production of every fruit, vegetable from this page. That's going to be a big challenge because there's a lot of them. And I don't really know how to do that. Obviously, we're going to have to use create for a lot of these. But I'm not really sure how to go about doing it. And then, of course, we have automating animal production. And I believe we can use create for a lot of those. Weirdly, I haven't gotten the snowball challenge, even though I've gotten snowballs several times. Oh, it's because I silk touched them and got snow blocks and didn't actually get the snowballs. So that's fine. But anyway, we've got all of that. Another couple of things that I want to show off is obviously I've set these guys up with full automation. I've got them turned off right now because I actually blew through all my coal. I had 0 coal. So I turned off everything that was using the coal. I did turn this back on. As you can see, I've got a kind of a better system there that actually works. I've got a stack limit in this. So it only has 1 stack of each, so it doesn't just fill up like crazy, but it is working. And then, of course, here's my charging station. I already showed you guys what's going on over here. This right here is kind of a nifty little thing that I have set up. So I've automated the production of, if we go here, rose quartz, which is needed to make the deployers. And it's, you take some sandpaper, which you can see the hand has right there. And then that outputs sandpaper and has a crafting upgrade in there. So when that runs out, it'll push the next piece of sandpaper in and allow it to keep going. And then the stomper over here, which is the one that used to be over there, can make, if I can get to the crafter, there we go, can make the brass sheets. Because you have to use create to make brass sheets. You can't use anything else. It doesn't work in the metal press. It has to be in create, which is annoying. But yeah, then of course I've gone through it. I've automated everything else. Again, I've gone over this a lot more in a lot more detail in the Snowcraft series. It's basically the same. The only difference is that we're using refined storage instead of applied energistics, but otherwise it's exactly the same. And then, of course, my assembler, I have the crafter going into that. And if we go inside here, you can see that I've set this up with fluid crafts. And the reason that I've set this up with fluid crafts is because refined storage doesn't do inline fluid crafting. And I can't figure out how to do inline fluid crafting with refined storage. Because unlike applied energistics, if I search for fluid craft, nothing comes up. We get a blood magic thing, and we get a crafting emitter that references crafting fluids, but I have no idea how to actually use a mixed recipe like this in refined storage. I tried just building this recipe, but when you try to run it, it complains that it's missing a bucket of creosote or a bucket of water. Even though there's water and creosote in the system, it can't, like, it doesn't understand that you can take that and turn it into and just use it. So we use the immersive engineering assembler because it does, and it's got the 3 different tanks in here, so you can have 3 different fluids for your recipes. And I've got an exporter right there that's filling it up with fluid, and then of course the importer over here that's accepting the finished product. So that's how I've come up with a solution for the fluid crafts. Fortunately, I don't have that many yet. I probably will as I keep going through the pack, but we can always just build another assembler. They're fairly cheap. I did also start working on basic Flux networks. As you can tell, I've got a Flux plug here. The issue is that Flux plugs don't pull power from energy pipes. The energy pipe tries to connect to the Flux plug. I've got this one blocked off, but it doesn't. The plug won't accept power from the pipe, which is weird, and it's a strange little interaction here. So I've got it running through this HV capacitor instead. I don't have this connected to anything right now. Or no, I do. I have it connected to, I built a Flux Compressor for Pneumaticraft, so it runs off electricity instead of coal. That is the only thing that this is currently connected to. As you can see, it's currently pulling 40 FE per tick, which is what that compressor uses to run. And then I've got some storage set up. And the nice thing about Flux networks is you can put these things pretty much anywhere. Like this doesn't need to be sitting right next to it. It can get moved, and it won't mess anything up. Well, it'll mess it up while you have it in your inventory, but the rest of the time it won't. You can just move it around. And it has wireless charging. So we cannot charge the main inventory. That has been disabled in the configs. But everything else should be chargeable wirelessly, but it doesn't seem like it's working. That might be something that we have to reload the game for. We'll worry about that later. The next bit of interesting that has happened is over in this area over here. So obviously I have a door here now because I went and found myself a blaze spawner. Apotheosis in this pack, so you can just silk touch spawners. You do have to use an actual silk touch pickaxe. The tinker stuff doesn't work. I broke a blaze spawner. Fortunately, there were two of them really close to each other, so I just went and got the other one. But I've got it set up with redstone so I can turn it off. And I've got a mega torch right there because I was getting creepers and skeletons spawning in that room, which is fine. Like, I should probably have a mob farm, but I don't want them in there. So mega torch disabled all the monster, all the spawns. And bats do seem to be disabled in this pack because I haven't had any bat spawns, which is good. If you were watching my Sky Factory 3 live streams, we built a mob spawner, and I basically just built a bat spawner instead. So, yeah. Anyway, if we go back through here, we have this crazy-ass looking thing. And this is that quest that I was ignoring right here, the Edge of the Hidden Realm. This is the Blood Magic Dungeon portal. So inside here we are apparently going to be able to find Tau fruit. Yeah, after right-clicking the central piece, you'll be transported to a room with 4 doors and a chest. If you're lucky, there'll be a key, which we just got as a reward. And then in each room you find some loot, monsters, spawners, and blocks from blood magic, which you can harvest. And you can apparently just keep going through this dungeon. And when we get some Tau fruit, we do actually get a cow spawn egg, which is nice. We're going to need another cow, and then we can breed them. But that is a good place to start, and that'll allow us to get through here, and eventually we can then get to the greater gem, as well as the tier 4 altar, and then ultimately the Well of Suffering, which lets us automate life point collection through blood magic. But that is what we built right here. So when we activate that, it should take us to the blood magic dimension. I'm not going to click it right now because that would be silly. I'm naked. In fact, the plan for this is to do this in a live stream. So the Tuesday after this video goes live, I will be doing a live stream over on twitch.tv/sillysnowfox. Head over there right now and hit the follow button so that Twitch lets you know when I go live. You can also check the schedule there to see what the time is going to be in your time zone. So you can catch that live. If you're not able to catch it live, the VOD will be available here on YouTube a couple of days later. So don't stress if you miss out, if you can't make it. There will be a chance to see it after the fact. But that is the plan for that. The other big empty room that I've built here is where the end portal is going to go. So that is what we are going to do for the rest of this video here. Well, that was the original idea for the rest of this video. It took me longer than I thought it would to go through all of the things that I've done, because I guess I was more busy than I thought, and I still haven't talked about my villagers. So we might end up doing the end in the next video. Actually going into it in the next video. We're going to build the portal frame in this one, even if I end up with a longer video. So I need to address the elephant in the room, because I'm sure you guys have seen these a few times. Easy Villagers isn't in this pack. I know, it's not. I added the Easy Villagers mod because A, I wanted to play with it, and B, I was tired of these freaking villagers running off and spawning cats everywhere. I have decided that this is a mod that needs to be in every mod pack going forward, because this makes dealing with villagers so much simpler. They're still kind of a pain in the butt, and like your librarians still don't necessarily want to give you the trades that you need right away, and you got to sit there and click the button 18 million times. But they take up so much less space this way. So, but yeah, so I moved the iron farm over here. The actual, the iron farm itself used to be right through there, and it's now gone. Filled that all in, converted it to this. And as you can see, they do occasionally, there spawns a golem in there, and once the golem dies, they'll get some iron and some roses in here, or poppies. There we go. And then they get sucked out into the refined storage system and stored away. And then over here we have all of our trades, and I put these storage monitors up here because these basically work like drawers. where when I decide, okay, I want to sell some carrots, I can just click that and it gives me a stack of carrots, and then I can click this guy and sell him some carrots. And then any extras can just be boop, put right back in, as well as the emeralds. So it's very handy to do it that way. And I'd probably have that set up even if I was still, letting the villagers be free instead of being trapped in a glass box. But you guys are annoying, so you stay in a box. And it does work with the modded villager trades too, which I'm really happy about. Like, I didn't have to do any configuring or anything. It just worked. You just stuck them in there and they work. So we have the converter here, so that I have the good prices for all of these. And this is where I was going through and setting up. This is why I did this, because I was setting myself up to be able to go into the end and getting some decent armor. Because I already have a decent sword, but I needed some good armor, so I setting up the villagers, and it was just bleh. So anyway, yeah. So Easy Villagers is not in this pack. I do highly recommend adding it. It is literally just drop it in and it works. I have not encountered any issues. The only thing that might be a little bit squirrely is that these recipes are really cheap. Like, that one uses a netherite ingot for the auto trader, but that's like an advanced block anyway. The rest of them are all really super cheap to build. So that might be something that maybe wait until you're far enough into the pack that you have these resources just available to you anyway, so it doesn't feel too much like cheating. But I do have a history of doing that, where I will just add a mod or two to a pack. I did it in Sky Factory 4 near the end of my time in the pack. I added Draconic Evolution to it, which was actually a lot of fun, and it was really interesting to play with. And gave me something to do with all that energy that you can make in that pack. But, anyway, here's where that flux plug is connected. So this is running and not making very much pressure at all. Huh. I wonder why it's so low. Anyway, the last thing that I need to discuss is this. I kept running out of wood. Like, big time running out of wood. And, of course, I like to build with different colors of wood. I like to use dark oak for wood and spruce primarily. And I went online, looked around, and I found this design for a tree farm, for a create-powered tree farm. It actually works really well. You can see the dark oak farm over there, which is separate from this one because dark oak requires a 2x2. So I had to kind of make it its own space, as well as it requires more vertical space than these trees do for those trees to grow. But yeah, it goes around. There's these saw blades on the front, which do hurt if you run into them, by the way. But as these trees pop up, the saw blades will go around. They cut down the tree. There's a jungle tree just popped up. They pick up all of the various drops from the tree. Goes into that chest there. There's another one that just popped up, so we'll see that, yeah, now they're all starting to pop now. So it just cuts them down, and it cuts down the whole tree. There he goes. And then as it goes by, the deployers will put the saplings back down and let them keep growing. So it's really handy. They go and around and around and around. And then right there, all of the materials get dropped off into there's a chest over here that's connected to the refined storage system, so they just get pulled in. And if I pull up in here and take a look at my log supply, you can see that I've got a lot. Dark oak generates like crazy, which we kind of found out in Sky Factory 1, that dark oak would generate like crazy because you get those big trees, which there's a lot of logs in them. But you just see how this just broke something, came around. So we're going to see some, there we go, some oak just getting dropped in. And I've kind of got them ordered in the order that I use them somewhat. I actually I should switch jungle and oak. but it's not that big of a deal. There's a birch tree getting broken down now. So I've got spruce on the outside, and then I've got like birch and acacia on the inside because I don't use those two very often. We do have an acacia sapling, and I had to take out these because if an acacia tree grows right here, or any tree grows right in that inner spot right there, I need to move away from that because that'll hurt. But if any tree grows in this spot right here, it won't actually cut them down, which is kind of annoying. But I think it's because the way that the saw blades are, like the saw blades would have to be offset back a block in order to actually cut those. So we could probably redesign this a little bit to actually work for that, but I don't care enough to do it. And then of course I have my dark oak over here. This one I'm only using 3 rows, so that got popped without dropping any more saplings. The only trouble with the dark oak that I have discovered is that we do occasionally have to come over here and pull some of these saplings out of the system, and then we kind of just come back over here and put them back. But anyway, I'll leave a link to the video that I used to build this in the description for this video. So if you are working with Create or following along, you can build one of these yourself. They're pretty easy to build, surprisingly. But that's why I needed to automate the deployer crafting is for this. But I think that's going to be pretty close to it. Let me do the very last thing that I really want to do. You can see I've already set up a craft for it. So we can go ahead and make our 12 end portal frames. And you can see that the system knows how to craft everything. And in case you're wondering how I'm getting so many blaze powder out of blaze rods, if you chuck a blaze rod into the immersive engineering crusher, you get 4 powder instead of just 2. That helps out there. And we go ahead and hit start, and that'll start working on that. And while that's working on that, there's one other thing that I wanted to show you guys. So I did a tutorial video on how you can maintain a stock of items in Applied Energistics, and one of the comments on the video was that you could just use an interface and tell the interface to maintain a certain stock and then do crafting and stuff like that. It doesn't work in Applied Energistics. At least it doesn't work in the 1.12 version of Applied Energistics. It might work in the newer, in the 1.16 version, but I did figure out finally what it was that these people were referring to. They have refined storage and Applied Energistics mixed up, because the interface in refined storage does actually allow you to set a value and maintain a stock of that item. So as you can see, I've got this one set up to maintain 2 stacks of gravel, sand, and glass at all times. And that's because in order to get gravel or sand, you have to process cobblestone down. So this just speeds up the crafts by making these available at all times, because then once I'm done using the sand, the system can then just make the gravel, and then can just refill it after the crafts are done rather than trying to do it during the craft. And then I just threw glass in here too, because why not? But I think that is what people were getting confused about, and mixing up refined storage and Applied Energistics. All right, the 12 end portal frames are now finished, and that gets us the quest complete for end portal frames, which gives us arrows of instant damage. Arrows of harming. I'm not sure what... I guess you'd use them on the dragon. Would be the idea for that. But we can go down and place these down. Now, there is a trick to placing these down, which I do actually happen to know. They tell you in the quest description, but I've done this in creative a couple of times too, and it's the same idea there. So what you have to do is you have to stand inside where you're going to put the portal, and you do 1, 2, 3, and then turn. 1, 2, 3, and turn. 2, 3. Sounds like a dance, right? 1, 2, 3, turn. 1, 2, 3, turn. Like that. So it has to go like that. And then when you go to put the eyes in, and again, it is very important that you stand inside the portal and place down your eyes. If you are standing outside your portal, the eye will actually be facing the wrong way, which is weird because you can do it either way in vanilla, but it has something to do with how they generate. Okay, and then before you place the last one, don't be standing actually in the portal or you'll get sucked into the end immediately. But there's the portal. The plan was to jump in there and do this now. But this video has run really long. So you're probably going to be doing is we're going to have a part 2 to this episode, which will be jumping into the end and fighting the dragon, and then doing some exploring in the end. Because like we need to pick up some elytra, we need to pick up, there's a whole bunch of different blocks now in the end because Better End is in this pack. But if we go over here, we can see that I've made myself a set of netherite armor. I've also gone ahead and made a jetpack so we can fly around a little bit easier. I've got a nice decent shield, and I've made a railgun because railguns are fun. Like, check this out. Okay, we can do this. Zoom in. And if we really want to zoom in, we can use Optifine. You know, so we can take a look at the villagers over there, see what they're doing. And then if we hold down the button, we will actually fire. And as you can see, we are actually firing these iron rods. So that's why there's a bunch of iron rods in here. I've made a really good heavy shield. I suppose I should make a bow then if we're going to use these arrows of harming. And the fun thing with this shield is if you double tap back, it pops the shield right into your hand. And if you do it again, it switches it back. So, one thing we can do that I've discovered. So I've got the railgun in my offhand, and so I can do the sword there. I can do the railgun here. I don't have any ammo for it, but I can do the railgun here. And then if I'm like, you know, I get the shield, and then when I'm back to needing range, bam. So, pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff that we can do there. But that's basically my plan for the dragon. I've got the jetpack so we could fly around a little bit. This took... I had to rebind keys in order to get this to work. So if you're playing along... Okay, that was a glitch. I was like, did I just duplicate my shield? I can think of other things I'd rather duplicate. Oh, I also made netherite furnaces. These things are fast. Super fast. But yeah, so that's basically the plan for the dragon. We've got the jetpack, so we don't have to block across the void. I've got plenty of food because I do have a farmer over there that sells golden carrots. Obviously, we need to work on getting better food. I really wish I could figure out mine colonies. If anybody knows of like a nice, you know, concise and well-done tutorial for starting mine colonies, I am not worried about getting all the way through it. I'm happy to figure that out on myself. I just have no idea where to start with mine colonies. So if somebody has something that they can point to or just let me know, I would appreciate that. But otherwise, yeah, we're going to go ahead and call things here for this video. It is stretched on quite a bit longer than I planned. But I had a lot of stuff to show you guys. I got excited. I get excited, and then I just do stuff, and I forget that I'm doing videos, and I'm going to have to stuff all this into a video and make it fit. So anyway, watch out for that next episode. It will be coming out fairly quickly, right on the heels of this one, where we're going to jump into the end and do that, as well as keep an eye out for that live stream where we are going to be going into the blood magic dimension and taking a look at that, which I've never done before, never looked at before, have no idea what to expect in there, so it ought to be really exciting, and I'm sure you guys will really enjoy watching me swear and fumble about as I probably die more than a few times. But, yeah, that's where we're going to end things for this episode, so make sure that you do all the YouTube things, hit that like button, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Pop on over to Twitch and give me a follow there as well if you're interested in seeing that live stream. I'll put a link to my Twitch channel in the description as well. And also, I just want to mention that we are getting closer and closer every day to 100 subscribers here on YouTube, which is really awesome. And it's good for you guys as well, because when we hit 100 subscribers, I can actually change the channel URL to something that is human readable. So instead of the random string of gobbledygook that it currently is, I can actually have it be something that you guys can tell your friends about a lot easier. And when you link to somebody, it's not quite as like suspicious. What is this random gobbledygook that I'm being linked? It'll actually tell you exactly what it is right there in the in the URL. So if you haven't already, consider hitting that subscribe button. Even if not for you, if you're not interested in the videos, then helping me out and helping out this little community that we're building here. And hey, why not? You might stick around for a little bit. You might find somebody that you like. You know, obviously we have similar interests. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video. Look for that coming out very quickly after this one as we jump into the end. But until then, I hope you guys are having yourselves a wonderful time, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.